Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Former Senate Law Clerk Mark Odsant has testified that it was the business of the Prime Minister's office to vet Senate appointees to see if they were actually eligible to sit in the Senate. And on the day that Mike Duffy was nominated, the media pointed out that Duffy, as a resident of Canada, didn't actually have the right to represent Prince Edward Island. And in response, the Prime Minister's spokesman, Dimitri Soudas, assured Canadians that Duffy would take the steps to become eligible, but that didn't happen. Can the Prime Minister explain why he failed to follow through on the promise to ensure that Duffy actually became a resident of Prince Edward Island and therefore eligible for that housing allowance?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the constitutional practice on this has been clear for almost 150 years. But what it suggests to me is that this member is actually trying to make a victim out of Mike Duffy, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Duffy is not a victim here, Mr. Speaker. He is accused after an independent audit, after an RCMP investigation, Mr. Speaker, and ultimately the Crown believes that he committed fraud. Mr. Speaker, we'll see what the court says on that matter, but I'm very surprised now to hear the NDP trying to make a victim out of this senator accused of such serious crimes.
And the honourable member for Timmins-James Bay.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, maybe I'll have to start this again because it's the issue of Duffy's eligibility, which the Senate has said was the role of the Prime Minister. And it was his eligibility to sit that was the center of the negotiations in the back room with Nigel Wright in the Prime Minister's office, which led to the bribery charge. According to the RCMP, the audit was whitewashed on the issue of residency. Then the Prime Minister stood up on February 27, 2013 to state that, quote, all senators conform to the residency requirements. Those residency requirements have been clear for 150 years. So can the Prime Minister explain on what basis did he consider Mike Duffy to be eligible for this housing allowance and a resident of Prince Edward Island?
Again, Mr. Speaker, as I just said, and as the Prime Minister said, the constitutional practice on this has been clear for almost 150 years, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Duffy is not a victim here. I cannot believe now that the NDP are trying to suggest that Mr. Duffy is a victim. Is it because, Mr. Speaker, the NDP are accused of doing the exact same thing, Mr. Speaker? Pretending that they were hiring people to work in an office in Ottawa when really these people were being housed in Montreal in a partisan office using House of Commons resources against the rules, accumulating $2.7 million worth of illegal expenses, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker,